Yes. Once again, you're live with Live Hip Hop Daily, one-on-one segment with the coach. What's going on, people? You know we bring you one-on-one interviews from different people around the world and culture of hip hop. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Ray Figs of 8 and 9 Clothing Company. What up, Ray?
What's good, man?
Chilling, man. Regular routine. Good seeing you, brother.
Same here, man.
So we know 8 and 9 is a clothing company that's bubbling right now. You know what I mean? So for those who may be unfamiliar, tell them about 8 and 9, meaning where did it start and what was the concept behind it?
Well, I mean, 8 and 9 originally started in Miami. One of my really good friends, his name is Ray G. He's actually the owner, creator of 8 and 9. It started in Miami, and it was simple as him just, seeing something in the fabric store and just running with those two numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit me up and he was like, I really want to do this. And at the time, just like a little history between me and Ray, we, in New York, he originally was in New York, but I met him. And we used to sell, Jordans, clothes, sneakers, hats, whatever we can get our hands on, other things, and he came to me with that, and I was like, yo, why do you want to start a clothing brand? Like, this is like a difficult thing. This is not an easy thing. And, I really wasn't with it in the beginning. He went and continued with it anyway. From there, I started helping him with other things in New York, started spreading the word in New York, and that's how it really came about. But to answer your question, like what 8 and 9 means, basically at the time when it came out, we originally came out in like 2001.
Okay.
There really wasn't a lot of creativity as far as the names. Like it could be like Hood Apparel, or, which is probably a brand that was really out.
Right. Keep it real gear.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to do something. We always been the type that's try to go left. So that's the 8 and 9 originally came from strength in numbers. Over the years, we started adapting different policies and different things to our name. Like the number 8 is actually it stands for infinity. It's a number that doesn't break. It just loops around.
Got it.
And the number 9 also stands for things like knowledge. So you have infinite knowledge. So we have a bunch of different word plays off of them.
Okay.
But that's pretty much where where the 8 and 9 came from.
Okay. So now you said you started down in Miami. Tell us a little bit about the apparel scene, or what you needed to, how you got things going in Miami to start getting the brand out there.
I mean, what we did really to get ourselves out there in the beginning is we really messed with a lot of DJs, rappers, people like that helped us solidify our movement and gave us that backing, like, yo, these dudes is official. People like DJ Hectic from Boston, DJ Lust from Boston, DJ Danny S from up here, TNG, all of those guys, always held us down. And that's where we really started off from. We started off from the music and actually hip hop. That's what helped us get our name out there. And another big thing that we did, well, not a big thing, but really what helped us get out there was the internet. Like MySpace, things like that. We were really beasting on MySpace when it was popping. Right. And we've always been like a real internet-driven company. Okay. Besides being in stores, we're really heavy on the internet, like on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr. We really go hard with that. Okay, and we'll come back to that in a second, because I think people know these days that they need to promote their brand, their music, their product or service online. I think we're sophisticated nowadays to say, well, if you could, what are some of the nuances on how do on how to organize your digital strategy? There are numerous platforms out there. How do you use each one to your benefit? But before we get to that point, tell the people about the pieces that are included on the lines. I see hats, I see T-shirts. Right. What can we expect from 8 and 9? I mean, right now we're moving a lot of T-shirts, a lot of hats. You can get raglans from us. You can get sweatshirts and hoodies. So we're pretty much playing with that. We also do like different things. Like we also sell sneaker keychains. A lot of people know us for that. A lot of the Jordans and Nike SBs and stuff like that, because we're also like big sneakerheads, a lot of us in 8 and 9. So that's another thing you could expect from us right now. In the future, you can expect a lot of cut and sew coming soon.
Okay.
Which would be, you know, we're going to be start doing pants, which we actually did pants like back in the day, like 2001, but we moved away from it and started just sticking more towards like the, you know, t-shirts and stuff like that. But you'll see a lot of cut and sew next year. Okay. Which is going to be like a good look for us.
Okay.
You know?
Now, there's a marriage obviously between 8 and 9 and hip hop culture. So let me ask, through the years, you know, you've probably been around, man, you know, that different artists, hip hop artists have allied themselves with clothing companies and launch lines.
Right.
Some good, some bad, some last a minute, some don't last very long at all.
Right.
If, you know, coming from, you know, when you're coming from that perspective, urban gear, as people call it, you know, hip hop related gear, what are some of the keys to success in marketing and selling? Just, you know, some of the, you know, the top things that we need to know, you know, as far as giving a brand or giving a line a chance out here.
Well, I would say originality, but that doesn't seem to, that doesn't even, I don't know. I don't think you really need to be that. Well, I guess for longevity wise, originality is going to be your best thing. There's I mean, I deal with streetwear. I can't talk for every other type of, you know, clothing that's out there. But as far as like streetwear is pretty much based off of, you know, taking someone's idea and flipping it. Like, obviously, there's also, we have branding, which is like this 8 and 9. Like that's us. That is what it is. But
right.
There's a lot of times where we flip certain things. Like for example, we took the Menace to Society. You know, when Old Dog was holding up, you know. Well, when he was in the store when he dropped the 40,
right?
We used that in a shirt. So a lot of people do that. A lot of people, you know, bounce, you know, as far as streetwear, they bounce other ideas. So I think that's something that's pretty important to make sure whatever you're doing is relevant to the time. Originality, like, will get you further than just, you know, using the same type of styles as everybody else.
Right.
And also professionalism. Like, I see a lot of people just, you know, taking, you know, regular t-shirts and just slapping stuff on them, and that's not gonna get you anywhere. You're gonna have to really do your research,
right,
and figure out what fabrics are good, you know,
right,
what's gonna withhold more than 1 or 2 washes,
right.
You know? So it's little things like that, you know, that's important as far as, you know, that.
And how do you choose that? Talking about fabric and different pieces, how do you, you know, go about making the decision on what fabrics you're going to use for shirts and hats?
It really depends on the time. Like right now, things are a little bit like softer. People are looking for like more softer, form-fitting like type fabrics.
Right.
You know, a few years ago that wasn't the case. You know, it may be more baggy, you know, heavier stuff.
Right.
So it needs to be relevant to the time. You know, that's really important. So that's what we do. It depends on what people want. Trying to give them what they want, and we're always trying to be maybe a little bit ahead of the pack.
Right.
You know?
Now, this is just me on the outside looking in. I was always curious. I mean, you always have, you know, like fashion shows basically that introduce, you know, the upcoming season styles and fashions.
Right.
You know, where do we get the cues from? Who's at the top saying that next year this is going to be what's good?
I don't know. You know, like a lot, in order to really make it in like streetwear, you kind of have to either be ahead, like just try to think ahead a little bit,
right,
and try it out and see what happens, and then, you know, it'll pretty much flow from there.
Okay.
You know, like, because I mean, we tried a lot of things that may have not popped that year, but after a while it started to pop. Like for example, like Raglans, like the short, the baseball sleeve tees.
Right.
We did that years ago. We was pumping Raglans. People wasn't really onto it, and then I would say probably like last year and the year before they were really hot. Now it's not as much, but you know, so you kind of gotta just look at what people are doing, and it's really guessing.
Okay.
You know, as far as I see. You know, because like even with tank tops were like real big like the past couple of seasons.
Right,
and
I noticed that.
You know, I figured that was gonna come back because jerseys was real popping like 2002, 2003. So I feel like everything always like kind of comes back.
Right.
You know, like even with the 90s with the bright colors and the neons and all of that, like that was popping last year.
Right.
That came back, that was popping. Like, how do you really know that? You kind of just gotta guess, put it out there, see what happens, and move from there.
Okay. Let me ask you a little bit about competition. How do you deal with the competition? Meaning that it seems like with urban brands, it seems to be brands pop up fairly frequently.
Yeah.
So how do you guys stay ahead of the competition?
Really, we always just try to stay true to what we do and make sure that we're just doing a little bit extra. Because like whenever you do something and it's hot, people are gonna see it and they're gonna mimic it. You know, so it only lasts but for so long.
Right.
You know, so we always try to like make sure that we're just doing the next step every time. You know, we'll try to create new fads and new trends and things like that.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Now you mentioned also during, while we were talking, you were talking about being a big sneakerhead.
Yeah.
How does sneaker culture affect what you do at 8 and 9?
I mean, with sneakers, it's become really hype in the past couple years. So we've always been into making sure we have a certain percentage of our clothes that match back to sneakers.
Got it.
So a lot of people know us for that. There's a lot of people that know us for like clean, you know, good quality work, and then there's people that know us for that also, but along with sneakers. So sneakers has been pretty vital for our success,
right?
You know, because it's such a big market and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Okay.
You know, but at the same time, you can't like box yourself into that, because once it does go away or once it declines down, people are only going to look at you as a sneaker t-shirt company, and that's something that we've made sure throughout the years that we're not only looked at as a sneakerhead company, but we also can get some, you know, nice clean streetwear from us.
Got it. And on the sneaker side, what are you seeing as super popular right now that you just can't ignore as far as manufacturing something that goes back to it? What is everybody running to grab?
The Gamma Blue 11s are like, that's the one right now. That's like probably the sneaker of the year right now, besides the Red Yeezys, which we don't know when they're gonna really drop.
Okay.
But that's something like if you're making t-shirts and you don't have something for the Gammas, like you made a mistake. Like that's a real big ticket item, and they're going for like $350, $450, all types of crazy numbers right now. So
okay.
I would say that's definitely one of the biggest ones right now.
Now, do you promote at any of the sneaker conventions that go on through the year?
Definitely. The one that we usually do the most is SneakerCon. You know, shout out to them, shout out to Alan and everybody over at SneakerCon. Definitely, I would say, to me, in my opinion, this is me, like I would say that's probably the best sneaker convention that's out.
Right.
Very well organized. Huge following. You know, just different things every time you go. Like they've had Dikembe Mutombo there.
Okay.
Adidas sponsors it, so you're always gonna see people like, you know, that are sponsored by Adidas. Like Iman Shumpert was there.
Okay.
So they do different things. We've actually did a sneaker t-shirt collabo with them, limited to 100 pieces. It's sold out in a few hours there.
Wow.
You know?
Okay, that's
so,
what's up.
I mean, if you're looking to go to a sneaker convention and, like, you know, see what the culture is about, maybe pick something up, maybe sell something, trade, definitely one of the best shows to go to.
All right. Wow. We'll come back to that after the break.
Okay,
we're going to break now. Check out a video or two. What would be your choice of video you want to see?
You know, I'm going to keep it old school. I'm going to go with Nas. Nas is like, you know,
that's what's
lyrics.
Up. Lyrics. Somebody want lyrics. That's what's up. Back with Live Hip Hop Daily, one-on-one segment with the coach. We're sitting here with Ray Figs from 8 and 9 Clothing Company. We were just talking a little bit about the 8 and 9 line and your connection with sneaker culture. But let me ask, before we went to break, you picked the Nas is Like video by, of course, Nas. Why Nas, yo?
Nas is one of my favorite rappers. I shouldn't even say rapper, like, I guess MC of all time, you know?
Okay, okay.
Just got a dope catalog, dope lyrics, and, you know, I just figured I would go into something like that other than, like, you know, ratchetness or something like that.
Thanks, man. You helped us out. You helped us out. We never know what people are going to pick. You know, and this is live, yeah, so, you know, you just never know, man. But it's funny, too, because Nas is known as a semi-sneakerhead, too.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I've seen on his Instagram, I've seen him flexing with a couple pair of Jordans and stuff like that, but I always seen him, you know, talk about, you know, Air Force Ones and stuff like that.
Right,
Classic sneakers. Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we were kicking it about before the break. We were talking about SneakerCon. So for people who may not know, what exactly is SneakerCon?
Okay, SneakerCon and just sneaker conventions in general. Basically, as a vendor, you would go and you would bring, you would get a table, you would bring whatever shoes or hats, clothes, whatever, even toys, whatever it is, that you're looking to sell, and you would set up, and basically the people or whoever organized it have people that come to buy, trade, and sell. So that's as a vendor. As a consumer, someone who's coming in, you can bring in your own sneakers. It doesn't have to be brand new. You can bring in brand new sneakers. You can bring in your used sneakers that are old, but maybe you cleaned them up, and, and you're trying to do something like that. You could bring sneakers in to trade with somebody,
right?
Or you can just go there just to chill. A lot of times there's dope music, there's food. If you're into big sneakers heads like the Mayor and Premium Pete and people like that, you may see them there. So a lot of people do that. But it's basically somewhere to just buy, sell, and trade. Like something that you would do like on eBay, but it's a lot safer.
Right, it's live.
Or I should say like Craigslist. It's right there. You can see if it's fake, you can see if it's real. Nobody's gonna rob you.
Right.
So that's why people go to these things, and it's become really, really popular. There's a lot of them out there. There's A2S, which is actually they operate out of the Palisades Mall. So we're gonna be there tomorrow. We're doing a pop-up shop there tomorrow, so that's gonna be sick. It's gonna be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Palisades Mall at Liberty Live, the comedy club there.
Got it.
So that's gonna be a dope one. But you got people like A2S, you got the Soul Exchange, where they do a lot of stuff in New York and New Jersey and DC, stuff like that. You got Dunk Exchange, you got SoulCon. There's a lot of different ones. There's a lot of different sneaker conventions out now. And then there's actually bigger ones like out of state, like H-Town Sneaker Summit, where it's like they'll hold it inside, like even like Kickspo, for example, they used to hold it inside Dallas Stadium. So we're talking about a lot of people.
Right. That's no small stuff right there.
Yeah. So it's a good show though. It's definitely a good show.
Okay, wow. And I've heard like funny stories from sneaker conventions and people trading sneakers right on the spot, taking
right off their feet.
Right off their feet. Have you seen stuff like that?
Definitely. My friends have done it. Sold it right off their feet to so when you go there, if you're a vendor or a buyer, you go in there with like with the intentions of doing, like, you have a plan, you're going there for a reason, so some people have one shoe in their mind, and that's what they're looking for that whole day,
and that's it.
And I've seen people bring 20 bags. They'll not even have a table. They'll come in with 20 bags of shoes and just throw them down and just try to do what they can do.
Right.
I've seen young kids from the ages of 10 years old with 2 bands in their pocket, ready to buy sneakers.
Wow.
I've seen mothers with their kids. They go there and sit there with them for the whole 8 hours and make sure their kids are safe, and they're not getting fake money and whatever.
Right.
But the culture is like huge. It's a crazy culture. It's not just for the kids. It's for the adults, kids, in the middle. Everybody's into it now.
Wow, that's what's up. And you mentioned something that always interests me: fake kicks. Like, there's a lot of fake kicks circulating. We're here in New York City. People know there's certain areas in Manhattan where you can go and get that in. Where do all of these fake kicks come from?
You know what's funny about that though? Fake kicks have been out forever.
Right.
The only issue is that now, it was never cool to wear fake kicks, but people really wouldn't care as much.
Right.
If you have fake kicks now, you might get jumped. Like, nobody's trying to see any type of fake kicks. You're gonna get blasted on Instagram, all of that stuff, But the fakes come into play now because sneakers aren't as easy to get as they used to be, as far as like the supply and demand.
Okay.
You can always go into Foot Locker and get a pair of regular Jumpman J's or whatever's there, but the people that are really into the most hype stuff is difficult to get. So, and it's also expensive. So that's why you see people will be willing to buy or pay less to have a fake pair,
right?
Just to blend in, Right. I heard a story, with this kid who had his brother couldn't, or I guess actually it was his parents couldn't afford to give him real sneakers. They got him a pair of fake sneakers.
Right.
He went to school. People were bullying him, harassing him. This,
Get out of here.
So there's a bunch of sneakerheads. Shout out to Cezo. That's one of the ones I know that was a part of it. They actually got together and got him about 4 or 5 fire pairs of sneakers. Like,
right.
They spent over $1,000 on them.
Right.
Gave him to him. He went back to school. He's good. You know, so just little things like that is the reason why fakes come into play. You know, people want to seem like they're, you know, in the mix of everything, but they may not be able to afford the $250
to get the real deal.
Yeah. So it happens. Now, it happens a lot. And then you got people that think they're buying real sneakers and they're just fake, and they're spending $450 on a pair of fake sneakers.
Now, how does that go down? Is it the retailer is just pushing some fake material
you know
out?
What it is? It's the hype beast. Shout out to hype beast that you guys want to get your sneakers early, 3, 4, 5 months early, so you can stun on Instagram.
Right.
You're paying $450 and the shoe's not real. And you know, then you could have just waited and got the real one for, you know, maybe the same price, but at least you know it's real.
Wow.
So it's a big thing now, man. The fake sneaker thing is a big thing. They're even going as far as bootlegging the Foot Locker stickers that come on the box.
Get out of here, yo.
It's down to that. It's down to a science. Like, you know, I've been at shows. Mike can even tell you, I was at a show recently, and I have at least 4 or 5 pair of Jordan Black Cement 3s, and somebody actually went and gave me tried to sell me a pair. Actually, they was trying to sell my boy D a pair.
Right.
And I couldn't even tell that they were fake. I couldn't even tell. Me, who has 3 or 4 pairs,
couldn't pick that up.
If you put it next to the other one, then I could tell.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's like I said, there's bad copies, there's good copies, but there's a lot of copies.
What should somebody be on the lookout for? So me, let's just say I think I'm coming up on a deal. I think I'm about to get over. This is looking right. The price is right. You know what I mean? But it's some fugaziness. But what do you look out for to avoid getting got?
First thing, before you can even look at the sneaker, who is giving you the sneaker?
Got it.
Like, I don't understand how these people, like, Kanye can't get a sneaker and then you guys can get Red Octobers. Like, this guy, like, just common sense things. Like,
right.
This dude is in the projects pumping these Jordans and shit, and he's getting them 3-4 months early. How is that possible? How can Foot Locker not get it?
And
dude stores all over the country,
right?
But homie can get it.
Right.
So that's the first thing I would suggest. Look at who's you're getting the sneaker from.
Right, got
Number one. Number two, the weight of the sneaker sometimes, the stitching. The stitching is like pretty much that's one of the good ones.
The stitching and the little paint, like it looking like a little. You tried to paint this with a Q-tip right here.
You know, if it's a size 13, the box probably shouldn't look like if it's a size 8. You know, sometimes they'll use the same box for every size, and we know that can't be possible.
Right.
You know, so that's the box is one thing you could look at, but when it comes down to it, man, whoever's copying it, if they got the money, you could make it, you know, almost identical to the shoe. So it's really gonna come down to your supplier, and it's gonna come down to you being like knowing the shoe, you know. And like I told you, even with me, I had a little bit of trouble spotting things,
right.
You know, and I've been buying kicks for years. So
is that straight coming out of the U.S. or are we getting a lot of
right
bootlegs
overseas,
from abroad?
man? Right overseas, man. They're coming from right overseas, and people are buying these shoes on these sites thinking they're real, and it's just not, man. It's not. It's not real, man.
At all.
At all. Not even close.
Now, is it also that there are just certain colorways that the manufacturer does not make?
That's how it used to be.
Okay.
That's how the fake sneaker game used to be. It used to be like, all right, these Jordans are dropping. And when a Jordan 3 comes out, they're gonna drop one every month and a half, one every 2 months, something like that. Now there's a release every weekend. So it's before it used to be, you know what? I got these exclusive colorways. Like you don't got this, and people didn't care. They used to look at it like, yo, that's a hot pair of J's. Right. People know all the colorways. So if you come with some boo boo colorway, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. People gonna know right away. Yo, that's fake. That's not real. It's not gonna.
There's
fly.
No such thing as that colorway, right?
Yeah, it's not gonna fly
at all.
And that's why you see a lot of people doing custom. Shout out to Picasso Customs. That's my boy from South Carolina. That's actually they just customize it to whatever way you want it. So they'll take an authentic shoe, and then make it whatever colorway you want. Now that's to me that's popping. There's a lot of whack customizers out here, but as far as my man Picasso, and a few others. You know, shout out to Fetty, shout out to Mach. There's some dope customs out there right now.
Right, I've seen that
Yeah.
before. People, like you said, buying the real shoe and then having an artist customize
Yeah.
it. That's official right there.
Yeah.
But as far as some of that glue on the side and the sole falling off and so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
Yeah.
Also, the other interesting thing I find in the sneaker game is how little people actually wear the kicks. So we're talking
Yeah.
about, you know, let people know in case they don't know, we're talking about maybe one wear in the back of the closet and two identicals that have never been opened and stuff like this.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are collectors. Like one of my boys, you know, he has like, and I'm similar to him also. I may not be as extreme, but like if I like a shoe, you know, I may get 2 pairs because I know that maybe it won't come back out again, whatever. So I want to make sure I got one, and I got one that'll stay fresh for a while. One of my boys, like if he gets something, he's getting 5, 6 pairs. I know. Addicted to Kicks, shout out Pat. You know, he has like Concords. He has like 9 to 10 pairs of Concord 11s.
Get out of here.
And he just doesn't care. He'll just keep doing it. So there's collectors. There's people that, you know, like to wear them once or whatever and throw them in the bag, bring them out later. Then you got the people that as soon as it comes out, it's on their feet and they beasting, and it is what it is.
Right.
There's dudes that buy every release. Like they don't care. It's just that's
Period.
just what it is. Yeah. So there's a lot of different sneakerheads out there. It just depends what you're into.
Is there any, and I guess we don't see the sneaker price, the price of sneakers ever leveling off. I mean, how far do we go?
Well, this is the problem. You know, the resellers have pretty much made it so that Nike is going to keep increasing every year. They're going to keep increasing the price every year because, like, if a Jordan comes out for $150, someone stands online, buys it, and they sell it for $200 or more. So Nike's looking at it as if, all right, you guys are setting the price for this shoe. You're gonna pay that extra $10 next year anyway. So why not? If anyone that follows the game knows that every year, you know, for the past 2-3 years, well, I would say it's even more than that, but it's more dramatic now. Because before, you know, it would take a couple of years for them to bring the price up. Now it's $10 every year. You know, foam posits, for example, you know, when they first came out, I believe they were like $160. Now you're looking at, you know, $200 to $220 to $250.
Wow.
For a pair of foam posits. Air Max, those are like $80, $90 shoes back in the day.
Right.
Air Max is like $160 now.
Wow.
So, you know, the pricing is not gonna stop as long as you guys keep reselling, you know, your sneakers. Nike's gonna keep bumping the price. And they do little things. You can see them do little things to test things out, like, you know, let's throw an exclusive out for $250 and see what, like with the LeBrons, for example, last year.
Right.
They threw it out for like $250. Let's see what happens. People bought it. They're like, all right, cool, we're gonna run with it.
Crazy. And people bought it.
People
That's the
bought it,
crazy
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. A lot to know about the sneaker culture. We about to go to another break. Once again, man, you get to choose the video.
I'm gonna go with Dead Prez, HipHop. You know, we're gonna bring it back to real lyrics, just real beats, just the realness.
That's what's up. Shout to Stick, shout to M1, shout to Don Davino, my man Divine, RBG, all day, salute. Yeah, back with Live Hip Hop Daily, live every day, live Hip Hop Daily, one-on-one with the coach. We're back with Ray Figgs from 8 and 9 Clothing Company. And Ray, let me ask, do you have any artists that are sponsoring the clothing line right now?
Well, we have a lot of people we deal with that we have good relationship with, like as far as artists, being that we're based out of Miami. You know, I mean, what artist doesn't go to Miami at some point in time?
Right.
And, you know, we're pretty much like, if not the top, one of the best, like, you know, brands out of Miami. So a lot of times they just gravitate towards us, you know, because we're in the streets over there. One collaboration we have right now is with Styles P and Jadakiss. It's the Sal versus Hayes sweatshirts. That's really popping right now. You can find that online at 8and9.com. And you know, we also work with a lot of different artists, but like right now, we're really focusing on that one right now because you know, Styles is a really good dude. Jadakiss is a really good dude, really down to earth. So we're really, you know, working with that. We've also had like KRS-One come down to our showroom. We've had Raekwon come down there and perform and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different artists that we're working with as far as just like making sure that they have clothes and that, you know, wearing their videos and things like that. But right now, definitely be on the lookout for that. That Sour versus Haze. That's what's popping right now.
Okay, and is that available? Is that going to be available soon, or is that available now?
It's actually sold out. It's sold out in like 3 days.
Wow.
Like a lot of love on that collabo. And,
okay.
It's restocking. I want to say next week, like middle of next week. So you can pre-order it now on 89.com. So this way, as soon as it comes in, we'll ship it right to you.
Got it.
You know.
All right, so it sounds like you're doing heavy retail online. Let's go back a second to your marketing strategy and specifically how important the net is to your overall marketing push. Now, we know that you're promoting online, and we know it's important. Just quickly, how important is it for you to market your clothing line, online, and how, why online as opposed to, let's say, print?
Like, it's just that we live in a different age now, ever since, like, let's say even like MySpace, for example, it's always, first of all, it's free. That's the biggest thing. It's free, and especially when you're coming up and you're trying to make your clothing line and you're trying to be relevant and make pieces and things like that. Money is, we all don't have $50,000 to throw into a clothing line. So you're gonna save right there just on being able to do these things for free. Right. Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Vine. There's like so many different places for you to network and show people what you're doing. I mean, the toughest thing is getting followers, so you have to have some type of like substance and be in the streets or maybe you just do something that's really dope online and people find you there. But you have to have that popping, or else it's not, as far as from what I see, it's not gonna really work. You see everyone online now. You even see with Instagram that they're now they have sponsored ads on there now. So like Lexus, for example, how I'm scrolling and then a Lexus ad comes up that's sponsored, that every person that's on Instagram sees. Right. So if Lexus is doing that, that tells you right there, like, this is a good platform. Right.
It's more than that. I mean, Facebook is always tasked with trying to monetize advertiser content. That's one of the things that they always have to fight with, and one of the things they always have to deliver. So when you have, let's say, a brand like Lexus, whatever advertising agency has that piece of the business, or if it's a direct relationship with Lexus, they want to advertise on Facebook because they know all of these people are here. Right. But they're like, all right, how do we get in front of them in a meaningful way, or how do we get in front of them in general? So now obviously you have Facebook X amount of months ago buys Instagram. So now you have X amount of Instagram followers that Facebook can leverage. But now it's like, well, how do we leverage it? Right. What do we do? So that what you just described, I guess, is one of the ways they answered the question. We're going to insert, this particular graphic or this particular ad inside of a feed, and everybody's going to see it. And I would say too, as you see some of those marketing tactics come down to the ground, even companies that are coming out of the community, 8 and 9 clothing company on down the line, these are things that we can take an example and a lesson from. Right. You see what the big boys are doing and how they're doing it. Hey, how can I incorporate that same methodology into my marketing plan and maybe get some success? So it's definitely something to get to keep an eye on. I would say also, you mentioned Tumblr, you mentioned Facebook, Twitter. How do you coordinate, your content on those different social platforms? Do they all get the same content? Do they get different? Is everything being blasted out the same time of day, or do you how do you work that out?
With that, it really depends on, like, I guess how many people you have. Because, I mean, there's certain sites like Hootsuite. That's a site, like, for any of you guys that are trying to, look to kind of coordinate all your social networks together. Hootsuite is a good site that does that. You can actually, like, schedule a message, and you can send it to Facebook, Twitter, I believe Tumblr, some other like networks, not just one. Right. So you can actually go and schedule your tweets and your things like that. It really depends on what you're pumping and what you're pushing, if it's even going to matter. Right. But that's definitely a good way to do that, Hootsuite. And there's other, I'm sure there's other sites that do the same thing. But it really depends on what you're doing. Like I said, like how you want to go about like sending out the same tweet to every single, or the same post to every single network.
Right.
You may want to switch it up.
Right.
I don't like to do that. I like to do things like a little differently, like, because, for example, Facebook is a very personal type of website.
Right.
Instagram and Twitter is like just a whole bunch of text message, pretty much.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean, Tumblr is more about visuals, you know. So you have to figure out each one and then use the strength of it.
Right.
You know, Facebook, you have to be a lot more personal with people. You can't just be throwing a million posts on Facebook. Nobody likes that on Facebook.
Right.
Instagram, you're already used to that. Twitter, you're already used to that. So you got to have different strategies for each, you know, social network, and find out what works best for you. It really is all trial and error.
Got it.
Really, that's how those social networks work.
So let me ask, is there any interaction between your team and the people who say like your photos on IG or like your post on Facebook? Is there any interaction, like I said, between your marketing department or your promo people and the people who interact with the content online?
That's one of the biggest things. Like, from what I've seen, and we're popping on Instagram, but the people that I see that like are really, really smashing it are the type of people that can get conversations going and can get people talking
right
on there, which basically, instead of it just being a dead post, people are constantly going back into it.
Right.
Shout out to Sneaker Rumors. Sneaker Rumors is really good with that. Just putting out something dope, you know, shocking people and seeing what they're gonna comment. And then, you know, the more that you interact with these people, the more that you realize, you know, that you're posting something up. And a lot of people don't realize this about these social networks. You know, just because somebody doesn't like your picture or comment on your picture doesn't mean that they don't see it.
Right.
These people, I've come up to people, I'm like, yeah, you know, I just got those Jordans last week. They're like, yo, I know, I see your Instagram. Like, they see everything. Yo, you had a cheeseburger yesterday.
Right.
Like, these people are watching what you're doing, man. It's not, you know what I mean? You gotta be conscious of that.
Right.
What you're doing, you know? So yeah, man, the social network stuff is great, man. It's something I've been messing with ever since like MySpace days, and I've just seen it evolve into just like a beast now.
And in the future, where do you see us moving in the future as far as marketing online, social networks? What's the next step?
I don't know, man. I mean, video is popping right now.
Yep.
Twitter and everything was more about conversation. Like, oh, I can actually say something to this artist. Like, I can actually tweet Kanye. Well, I don't know if he's gonna really say it, but I can tweet at Kanye. So that was popping. It's a bunch of text messages. And then, you know, you had Instagram, which is still popping, but it was more like pictures, like who could take the dopest picture.
Right.
You know, so that's how to market. And now, like, you see, like, Instagram now has video.
Right.
Vine, you know, they messed up Vine, but Vine was like, it's still popping. But Vine was popping on that video, quick clips and stuff like that. I think that's what's popping right now, and that's where it's gonna move towards. I'm not sure what's gonna be after that, but I could tell you that, like, those short little clips is what's popping right now, because people don't wanna sit there for a whole 5 minutes to find out what you're about. People aren't into that no more. They want a quick fix now. You know? Like, they want to know your brand in 15 seconds.
And that's it.
Yeah, so I think that's where it's at now, and I think it's still going, you know, it's still moving with that. I'm not sure how long that's going to last and what's going to come after that. Because, I mean, who knows? Like, you know,
I know. You just never know what's on the horizon.
You know, yeah. Like, I was on Twitter for a good year and a half before it popped.
Okay.
You know, we always try to see what's going on and just try it out and see what's happening. Look at Foursquare, for example.
Right.
Foursquare, they came out, they popped, and then people started adapting that check-in stuff to everything. Now you can check into Facebook, you can check into Instagram. So
your dentist's office, wherever you're going.
Yeah, so it's like the big guys like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're always gonna adapt whatever's popping and put it into their mix.
Got it.
You know?
So that tells us about using, you know, social platforms as a tool to promote, and that's all under your marketing umbrella. Right. Let's talk about retail for a second. You mentioned that people can buy material online. How important, or, you know, how do you structure your retail mix? Is it strictly promoting to people online so they can buy online, or do you have some brick and mortar locations that you deal with as well? And if so, how do you balance that out?
It's tough, because I mean, you don't want to oversaturate the internet to the point of where, like, you're on multiple websites. Well, at least I'm always talking longevity wise.
Right.
you don't want to oversaturate yourself, because if somebody goes into a store, they're gonna just look and say, I don't want to buy it. I could just get this online. Even though that's not gonna happen all the time, because people are real impulsive.
Right.
But you have to be able to have some type of medium. So with us, we have our primary location, which is in Miami, which is our showroom, which we're, you know, we ship from there. We our basically our orders are all done there. The customer service is done there. We have a showroom where you can actually go and shop and buy things.
Dope.
And that's where the boss is at. You know, we have a certain section where we could do photo shoots. You know, so we kind of have everything under one roof. And then we also wholesale to certain stores. You know, shout out to For You Caps on White Plains Road. They hold us down. We have a lot of other stores like in Florida and all over the country that we wholesale to.
Okay.
So that's how we push our product there. But you have to have online. You know, you always have to have online, because I mean, just like we were talking about the social networks, if people are all into that, they might also be more likely to buy online.
Exactly.
You know, so the online and the store things definitely got to try to find a good balance in between both of them.
Understood.
You know?
Understood. Well, Ray, man, you definitely gave us a great snapshot about 8 and 9 Clothing Company.
Yes.
You know, how it's marketed. You know, some, you know, which people that may be coming out with clothing lines can get some, you know, some good insight into. We're about to end up in a second, but once again, tell people where they can buy the clothing from. Let's get the websites and everything so they know where to find you.
All right, basically, the website where you can buy our clothes from directly from us is 8and9.com. That's the number 8, AND9.com. It's always the numbers. You don't have to spell the numbers out. If you Google 8 and 9, pretty much everything's gonna come up as far as our Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, all of those avenues. That's really where we should just go, because basically, like, sometimes we drop things, you know, that don't make it to a store. They may be online exclusive, so that's why I would suggest everyone to go is directly to 8and9.com.
Got it.
Get it right there.
All right, so we're about to end off this segment one-on-one with the coach. Once again, Ray Fix, 8 and 9 Clothing Company. Thanks for coming by, man. Thanks for coming by, family.
Sure.
And we're gonna jump into a last video before we jet out. Once again, your choice. What you want to see?
Video, we got a Wu-Tang Clan, Triumph, one of the best hip-hop records of all time, man. One of the best groups of all time.
There you go,
Lyrics.
man. Say no more. Until next time, one-on-one with the coach. Live, Hip Hop Daily. Live it, baby.